1.17.
SunJoe Professional SPX-9004, 9007. It's kind of pointless to do the 9007, but I guess I like to waste money, so I bought one anyway. The 9004 would be the superior car washing pressure washer, theoretically. They look to be the exact same pump. Everything looks identical. There's probably a different plate inside of it that gets us different pressure. So these are rated at, which are the ridiculous ratings, which make no sense, rated at 2 GPM at 1300 PSI. That's max and max. Max flow, max, let's see, they call it max flow, max pressure. And then they have a spec called rated flow and rated pressure. Rated flow is 1.8 GPM and rated pressure is 1000 PSI. So we're gonna measure that and figure that out. Now the SPX 9007 is max pressure, 1800 PSI and 1.6 GPM. And then rated pressure is 1400 PSI, 1.35 GPM. So for washing cars, you know, I've been adamant in this whole series. If you haven't watched the other series of the lesser expensive units, I'm a big flow guy. I want more flow, less pressure. 1000 PSI is a good target. Now, again, there's no scientific research behind that other than that's just my, you know, my subjective field test. I stick my hand 18 inches in front of the nozzle, and if it doesn't hurt my hand, then it's probably not going to hurt my paint. So that's the philosophy behind it. That's the methodology I've used for this whole test. So this is, I think, number 63 and 64 pressure washer tests. I still have quite a few more to do, but these people have been asking forever for me to do. So anyway, I'm getting it set up here, and I figure I might as well get credit for this since we're doing it. So nobody makes a plug. I like to put the plug on the outlet of the pressure washer and the coupler on the inlet to the hose. I just think it's a better way to connect, especially since a good hose usually has really stout fittings or stout threads. And so if you put a plug on the inlet to the hose, they tend to crack. Whereas a coupler is much thicker, much heavier. So I like to put couplers on the hoses, and so I'm looking for a plug on the outlet. Now, in their infinite wisdom, the SunJoes use a 15 millimeter type connection. So this is 15 millimeters. So the bore, the center bore, the hole is 15 millimeters instead of 14. So on any SunJoe part or product, we've got to pay extra to have these funky fittings because nobody makes one, at least not yet, that looks like this. MTM's working on it for me. So we need one for the stock gun because I want to test what the pressure and flow is with the stock setup. And then we'll go and modify it using a Mosmatic gun. Mosmatic MTM guns should give us the same output. I have my Mosmatic here, and we're going to try different nozzles and figure out what we need to get the optimum output. So we have this funky fitting here, funky fitting here. I've got couplers on the hose. I'm not going to hook up the SunJoe hose. A hose is a hose. I've found that anything under 100 feet is completely negligible. You can use a 3/8 quarter-inch hose. Really doesn't matter. The pressure's the pressure. I've found no difference in all of my lots and lots of testing. So I'm just, rather than get the SunJoe hose all wet and get a bunch of fittings out and mess them up, I'm just going to stick with our 50-foot Cobra Jet hose, which will give us the same output as the other. So these are, I mean, I hate to say it, but they don't seem terrible quality. They're certainly heavy. You know, it's certainly not German quality, but you know, they don't look terrible. Where the real problem here that you're going to run into is this plastic inlet connection. These things are leaky, they're inferior, and they're probably going to break. So this is why I would highly recommend you get yourself a plug in order to torque it down and leave it. So hopefully you can end up with a leak-free fitting. It's just not smart. I mean, what would have cost them to put wouldn't have cost much to put an actual metal connection here. And I found these, if you don't get them torqued, they leak like crazy. And it's hard to torque them because it's plastic. Okay, and I taped the heck out of it. You shouldn't need to tape this kind of connection because we've got a rubber O-ring in there. But yet, if you don't, I found these to leak on all the cheap pressure washers. Now these I wouldn't classify as cheap. I mean, they're gonna be $300-something. Of course, it's a SunJoe, so they'll run all kinds of weird pricing on them all the time. So they basically conditioned you to never buy them at retail. But of course, I'm impatient and I bought it for like 400 bucks, whatever the retail price is, because I don't have time to wait for them to go on sale. I need to do the test. People have been driving me crazy to do the darn test. And so I just bought them. So I paid, roughly 400 bucks for each of them. Yeah, see, this is gonna be problematic. I can already tell. There's no question it's gonna be a problem. All right, so we're set up there. This should only need to be hand tightened, so we should be good. Unloader valve, we really should never mess with the unloader valve. You should have it wide open, and you're always better off adjusting with tip size. So if you wanted more or less pressure, I wouldn't recommend messing with the diverter or the unloader. That just heats up the pump. Okay, so I've got an MTM gauge. If you haven't watched the other parts of the series, MTM gauge I'm gonna put in line here, which will give us our pressure rating. And I've got a bucket over there, which we're gonna test for flow. I've also got a gauge inside to get us our amperage rating. And then we're also gonna test our SPL at roughly 15 feet. I'm gonna have to move this here because inlet hoses have been in short supply, so I'm stuck with a 6.5 footer. This is the only one I got. Okay. Good, good, good. We should be able to turn the water on. Let's hope this doesn't leak. Yeah, making all kinds of noise. Let's let the air out so people don't get bent out of shape. On a more important note, check out those HREs. Pretty sick. At gentleman's ride height. Because I'm a gentleman. So, one of the disadvantages of these is they don't have auto on off. So when I turn it on, it should run. Runs. It's not too bad. Not super loud. We'll get an SPL rating in a second here. So this is all stock setup. Again, the hose will be negligible. We're getting 890 PSI. What do I do next? Bucket test? It's been a while since we've done these. I forget how we did this. Oh shoot, 11.9. That ain't no good.
1.17.
1.17 GPM. I think we should do that again. I mean, that's a whole lot different than 2. Yeah, I want to run that again. I probably should we should check the tips. Well, no, the tip may be different. So let's put the proper orifice on here. Yeah, 790 PSI. I mean, everything's functioning. I mean, we're gonna get more GPM, but not much. Because we were at 910 before, but that was with a nozzle that didn't come with it. So we'll still get the same output. I guess I'm just gonna buy another one just to confirm. I mean, I just find it hard to believe that this thing is that far off. that it's that bad. I mean, we'll conclude this test here today, but I'll buy another one and try it. I mean, normally when something isn't working, like you can hear it. Everything's functioning perfectly. There's no leaks, no air leaks, no issues, it seems. Yeah, this one's just as hot, so they both run hot. This feels like more water though. There's a lot more water. So this is with the proper nozzle. There we go. 17.4.
1.81.
There we go. So you have to knock the pressure down. That's what it was. So let's do our aftermarket test again. So if you dial up any pressure, so it was if we go from 790, so 790 just isn't a very good, that's just really, really lean. You know, a Krenslow did 1010 at 1.9. So if I put a 5.5 size nozzle on a Krenslow, I'm gonna get more water output. So we can't run we ran a 2.0 to get, what did I get out of with a 2.0?
975.
Right, so if our target's 1,000 PSI, you just can't get pressure and flow out of this thing. So they're overrating the pressure. It just feels so lean. I mean, when we saw the foam can, it doesn't even work. So we know we don't have a defective unit, so that's how you get flow. And you can do that with any pressure washer, just open up the nozzle and don't get any pressure. I mean, look at how lean this is. I mean, it does feel better with that nozzle on it. So that is moving some water. Just at sacrifice of pressure. So let's redo this test. So here's a 4.0 nozzle. I mean, a 4.0 gets us right at 900. I guess that's not too bad. So this should get us around 1.7 GPM now. 3, 2, 1, go. I was so excited. No, seriously, I was shocked. I'm like, man, I couldn't believe that this thing would only do that low of flow. It still doesn't address our issue with the foam cannon, so we'll have to see. We'll have to try that again. Nah, we were just running the wrong size nozzles. Yeah, we're moving some water now. This thing just can't handle any back pressure whatsoever. 16.6. So 1.7.
1.71.
1.71 GPM. So you want a 4.0 nozzle that gets you, what did I say the PSI was?
900.
So 900 PSI, 1.71 GPM. Let's go test our 1.1 orifice nozzle on it again on the foam cannon. So this is the time where pressure matters. We're getting like 910 out of it. That's okay. It'll work. A little watery, but not the end of the world. I'm gonna put this back on here. 4.0. I got that wrong. It's 810, not 910. Yeah, with the 4.0 nozzle, it's 800 PSI. Yeah, it works. Certainly lean. Yeah, we'd want more pressure, but I guess, you know, for 400 bucks, it's not terrible. Again, I don't think I'd want to have it running all the time. I'd pay an extra couple hundred and get a Comet. Because the Comet does 1.9 GPM at 1,000 PSI. That 200 PSI difference, when we get really lean like this, that 200 PSI makes a big difference. But this certainly could work if you're on the budget. That feels better. Yeah, where I was making a mistake was running lower, running the wrong nozzles. If you run the wrong nozzles on this thing, it doesn't do what you need it to do. So 4.0 nozzle gets us 1.71 GPM. So if you wanted to get a little bit more flow, you would go down to 700 PSI to get back up to that 1.8. And that, you know, that's where we were running before. What was the stock? I said stock with the stock gun was 7 something.
790.
790. This thing's really sensitive to just little adjustments. I wonder if he ran a 4.5 nozzle. I think 4.0 is the way to go. So 4.0 on this works. We get some foam with but you definitely need 1.1 millimeter orifice with these. All right, so 9007, 1200 PSI. That feels like a whole lot more water output. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, it's 1200 PSI right on the dot. This feels like a whole lot more water. What do you think the chances are it's the exact same pump, the exact same configuration, just with a different tip? I wouldn't put it past them. You know, they just put a different orifice in, which is like a 10-cent difference. Because again, if I put this on here, nah, it's got to be different because I'm only getting 500 PSI with that tip on there. 12.8 amps.
But that's fine like that?
13.7. 1.37 GPM. So that's right at what it's rated at. Let's do our SPL test. 70. So let's try 3.0. There we go. 1000 PSI. 3, 2, 1, go.
Those are staying the same.
Yep, 14.7, 14.5.
1.46.
1.46 GPM. Okay, so that makes sense.
So it's only
3.0 nozzle, 11.2 amps, 1000 PSI. I mean, there you go. But why would you deal with, I mean, well, what is an SPX-9001? Or let's say an SPX-4000. I'd rather have a 4000. SPX-4000 was 3.0 nozzle, 1.41 GPM at 1000 PSI. So exact same output. Now, and it turns off for 129 bucks. And you probably get it less than that. Now I'd buy a Karcher. A Karcher K1700 is 129 bucks, 139 bucks. And does, was it 1.47 GPM at 950 or something like that? K1700, 1.45 at 1000 PSI. So a little bit more output, 139 bucks. Foam cannon test. Pretty standard. That looks appropriate. How much draw? So 12.0 amps, so definitely 1.1 millimeter orifice on this. All right, next test I guess will be AR Professional. I don't really think it's necessary to buy all the AR Professionals. I may only buy a couple of them, like the 630 TSS Hot. I'll buy that, and then I've got to get the Briggs & Stratton stuff. I've got to get the new Greenworks stuff to test those. It's going to be the same. I think the new Greenworks is exactly the same as the old Greenworks. So we'll keep. This will be now longer term, not like a dire rush to do everything right away. I'll publish the spreadsheet at some point here in the not too distant future. We're going to be building out some more information on the website to give you more info on how to hook these things up and try to make it as simple as possible for you to decide, what to do. You're definitely going to want a different gun, swiveling gun, different hose, and you can make these SunJoes somewhat functional. I know some guys have hooked up a separate battery on-off, like a battery operated or remote operated on-off. But, again, I would much rather have a Comet. There's no cons to the Comet in comparison to these, other than Comets still use funky fittings too. And these are quite a bit heftier but they do run pretty hot. I wonder what the longevity is on them. So anyway, luckily I have all the parts and pieces to walk in there and swap out. Imagine you were trying to do this at your house, you bought all the parts you thought you would need, and then they're wrong, and you think you had a defective unit, just like I did. So hopefully I'm able to fall on the sword for you and you don't have to deal with these issues. So anyway, thanks for watching this one. Stay tuned for more pressure washer videos. I'll have more coming. Thanks for watching. What happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.